Here you go. Yeah.
7 billion. That's the Nothing Personal Austin Powers word of the day for May 23rd, 2024. Today is Thursday. Good morning. We are coming to you live at 8 a.m., having been at a hockey game last night and gotten back in the middle of the night. But guess what? It's showtime. And when you're talking about $7 billion, that can perk anybody up better than a cup of coffee, which I don't drink. Didn't even take a no-dose. Maybe a jolt. Nope, didn't do that either. Just some water. $7 billion. Another franchise has been sold in the NFL. Nope. $7 billion, a record for broadcast rights. Nope. $7 billion. It's a record, all right. It's a record for the NBA broadcast rights. The entire sports business world is going batty. All the fans who don't understand business are sad. They're losing inside the NBA. No more Barkley, no more Shaq, no more Kenny. What's going to be with Ernie? If you've been following this story the way we've been covering it, both on the Sporting Class and on Nothing Personal, you're saying to yourself right now, what's new? What's new is, here we go. Sports Business Journal reported on Wednesday that the NBA is formalizing the media rights deals with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon. Now, we had heard drips and drabs, rumors and innuendo. There had been a lot of talk that Disney had gotten in there right before the exclusive period had ended, and they had re-upped their A-package deal. That's when you get the finals, the conference finals, and a bunch of regular season games. Then there was a couple days later, it looks like there's a third package coming. We had heard the rumors. Amazon, they're stepping in and they're going to do streaming just like the NFL. And then the question is, what about the B package? The B package, you get a conference finals, you get the early rounds, you get a game of the week. Sounds a lot like what TNT does. And the rumor was that NBC was trying to take over. The rumor was that John Tesh was being called to round up his round rock. That's not it. I have no idea what that was. I want to be musically inclined, but I got kicked out of chorus and I carried around a French horn in elementary school. Said that's a little too heavy. Don't want to schlep it. Little too heavy. Switched to the flute. Couldn't do that. Ended up with the clarinet, but I still have that feeling when the reef is dry and you gag on the reef. It's like, so I was out of band. So that's it. Don't even sing in the shower. I wish we had the music for you. We could play it. I think Dan may own it. John Tesh is trying to revive the NBA and NBC, which to me was the height of my 80s and 90s Knicks. But it can't be that NBC is going to take over. What will happen to Turner? But if you had been listening to Nothing Personal, you're very well aware that David Zaslav, the kingpin at Warner Brothers Discovery, Nick hat-wearing lover of basketball, is a lover of money more than that, a lover of profit more than that, a lover of earnings per share more than that, more than that, more than that. I told you they're not going to get the package. It's too much. It's too much. Why would you? I want to bring you back to the Dodgers. Just stay with me. We're switching sports, but just hang out with me. I want to bring you back to when Fox had the rights and had a cable deal, a regional sports deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers under the parking lot guy, Frank McCourt. Then he had to sell his team to the current owner, Mark Walter, Guggenheim Partners. As part of that transaction, was a brand new deal with Comcast, an out-of-this-world deal that's made the Dodgers what they are now, not subject to the bankruptcy that the other Yuts teams are going through. This is a deal that's stuck into the 2030s for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I happen to be in Los Angeles. I can say this now. I've actually never said this, I don't think, Coca. but I can say it now. I was in the Fox studios in Century City negotiating when I was still with the Marlins for a TV deal that Derek Jeter spat on and then got a worse deal when he started negotiating, but that's for another day. We were negotiating. I would fly to LA every month in Donnerstick because I wanted to get a new TV deal done. Did not know that the team was being sold. Had not started selling the team yet. The Dodgers deal happens. And here is what Fox, the leaders of Fox, look at me, Louie, that's who I'm meeting with, says to me. This is the greatest day of our life. The fact that we know what they did was sign up to a deal where they are guaranteed, though he didn't say frickin', they are guaranteed to lose money every single year starting day one, no matter what. Why would we want to do that? Does it stink that we can't get a signed Shohei bat? This was before Shohei, but I'm just giving you an example of some of the perks of being a broadcast partner. Does it stink that we will not be associated with the Dodgers anymore? Yeah, but guess what? You know what stinks more? Getting your ass handed to you financially. So will it hurt Turner in the short term? When the NBA on NBC returns, Turner gets left out. Everyone's upset. Guess what? It fades. All the people who are criticizing Turner, the stockholders who are not criticizing Zaslav, they have nothing to fade. The fans who say, oh, I'm so used to TNT, believe me, you'll get used to NBA on NBC. The fans who are crying out for Barkley, and we have to hear a year now because there's still a year left on the deal, a full year of, it's like the never-ending wake of inside the NBA. Let's do a best of. Let's hear what Charles has to say. Let's hear what's going on behind the scenes. We're going to make it in front of the scenes. You better pay me my money, Charles said. Tell me on the 1st and the 15th, and I'll tell you I love you. You tell me you love me with an envelope. Inside the NBA could be recreated. It could be a different name. It could be the same characters. It could be a different conductor, even though people say Ernie Johnson is the keystone. Do you think a large, huge company like Warner Brothers Discovery, and they're a huge company dealing with a lot of debt, do you think when they're sitting in board meetings and they're figuring out their earnings per share and they're looking at the value of their stock, do you think they give a tinker's rat's pituitary damn that you all have some sort of affinity to Barkley and Ernie Johnson? No. Now, it informs the PR part of it for sure. And so you're seeing a bunch of PR that's going to happen now, including, on a side note, the PR of TNT buying some CFP from ESPN. That reminds me of a song from Hair. LSD on the IRT down to 4th Street, USA. Hey, there's a whole song in Hair, which if you've never seen the movie or seen the Broadway play, first time as a kid I ever saw, there was, anyway, Coke, I'm not allowed to talk about that, but believe me, the music's amazing. Nell Carter's in the movie. So is Treat Williams. Rest in peace. Love him. Beverly D'Angelo from Vacation. Anyway, initials. I don't know why I was talking about initials. God, I love this show. I love it. What day are we? Thursday? Friday? Just another manic Monday. Coca, help me, please. Oh, thank you. We were talking about the fact that if inside the NBA were to disappear and Turner were meeting with the bosses, Zaslav with his bosses, and explains we didn't pay what the NBA wanted for the NBA package, but we still have an opportunity to be an anchor when it comes to sports. It can be anchor programming for the rest of what we show. And this new deal with venue that we have where we're bundling, we're going to be able to still add baseball, and we'll be able to add hockey, and we'll be able to add some March Madness. And we're going to cut a deal with ESPN where we can add some CFP games. Those are the college football games played at the end of the season. Remember, they expanded the CFP? And remember that ESPN bought the rights to show the entire CFP? Do you think it's a coinkydink that word came out yesterday that ESPN sold some of the rights to early rounds of CFP to TNT? That's the initial conversation. So TNT gets to tell the world, hey, we may have lost NBA to NBC, but we got CFP from ESPN. Everything's going to be just fine in initial land. And you know what? We're going to be better off in $ land. So everybody seems to be losing their mind. There's a few bits of pieces that haven't come out yet because the NBA, of course, hasn't announced anything. We've got Sports Business Journal saying this. We've got Andrew Martian saying that. But really, all they're talking about right now is what I like to say, allocation. If the NBA rights are $7 billion total, that's not per year, might I add. That is per year, excuse me. You've got, that is not per year. That is per year. I'm having a total brain blank. That is per season allocated. 282616 is what you're paying per year. OVs. Thank you. We can cut that out. That was a weird sort of mental brain thing, Coca. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so just I would like you to do that, all right? 4869. We're not exactly sure on the annual breakout. Some people are reporting 282616. Some people are saying 282814, with Amazon being the lower number, with ESPN being the higher number, and NBC being the B package, the second number. We'll find out exact numbers when we can. What yesterday's leaks were all about was a guarantee that Turner is losing the NBA. Now, you're going to read a bunch of stuff. This is all part of PR 101. You're going to hear a few people talking about, oh, it's not over yet. There's still a right to match. There could be legal ramifications. There could be a battle with Turner, and it's a bunch of horse hockey. When you do a deal with NBC, you do it in a way that it can't be matched. The odds of Turner having a right to match a third-party deal, I've never seen that in my career, but you never know. So all these different things that you're reading are about PR and about making sure that shareholders and board of directors are all on board with what the plan is for what you're doing. That's all you're seeing right now. And not for nothing. And I've said this from the beginning, I think. If you think that Charles Barkley and Shaq and Kenny Smith aren't going to keep doing a pregame show and a postgame show, you are sorely mistaken. You may not find them on TNT, and you may find that you don't care. Because it turns out that inside the NBA, meaningless. What matters is the people who are doing it. And if people switch out, guess what? You'll get used to them the way you get used to an update on an app that you use or a refresh of a website you use where you look at it and say, man, I can't figure out how to navigate this. And then a week later, it's, I can't remember what the heck it looked like before this update. I do something, side note, funny about this. I take screenshots of text messages. One screenshot of one innocuous text message going all the way back to the beginning. I like looking at them. It's sort of like the people who take a picture of themselves once a day for a year and say, oy, oy, oy. Or take a picture of themselves once a year, and after 50 years, they look back and say, ooh, that seems like an aggressive aging. Go back and look and see how your text messages looked when you first started. And then look at how they look now. Do you remember that sort of switch? Was it abrupt? Did it happen over time? You'll be just fine. I promise you. One of the downsides of going to games, and there are not many, exhaustion. That's not a downside for me, but it is for many people. I was at the Ranger game last night at the Garden. Game ended relatively late. It was an 8 o'clock game. I don't think it ended until 10:47. By the time I got home, then I drove because I'm in a different place. Whatever the case is, 2:30 arrival. That to me is fine. Ended up having to stay awake because, as you'd imagine, there was unpacking. Had to do some putting away, a little laundry. But the problem is, two things happened yesterday while I was at the game. One, the finale of Survivor, season 46. Haven't watched it yet. Don't know who won. We'll be watching today and reviewing tomorrow. Two, the reason I'm not reviewing it today is it's Thursday. I'm reviewing a movie for my top 100. Second thing, I could only get scores of the Mavericks Timberwolves game 1, which was happening at the same time. And Wi-Fi is spotty, cellular service is spotty. You're getting a score, you're looking at a box score, but you're trying to watch the game. You don't want a puck to donkey in the head. You want to make sure you're cheering. You want to make sure you're listening for the whistle so you can yell "Pot fan sucks." You're very distracted. On a side note, Coca, quite a few Nothing Personal fans are fans of either the Rangers or the Panthers, which makes me feel like either they're fans of also baseball and basketball, or we ought to be doing a little more hockey. But to those who came up and said hi, thank you. I'm always happy to say hi. Yes, I was wearing a Rangers jersey because I was with Rangers fans. There's a chance if I go to another game, I'll be wearing a different jersey. Wait to see. Remember where I spent 20 years of my life and where my son was born and lives to this day. All my kids grew up in Florida. Spoiler alert. So I'm getting scores and I feel like I need to watch highlights. I need to watch the game. Is there a condensed game? It looks like Irving is on fire in the first half, and then he only finished with like 33, but he had 24 in the first half. Nobody's shooting well. Edwards is barely scoring, yet it's not that it's one of those 85 to 70 games. It turns out the final score was 108-105, and the Mavs won the game. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. I wanted to watch as much as I could of the fourth quarter, watch Luka be Luka. And I just kept thinking, of course, about Mark Cuban, Ovs. But I was thinking about, is Kyrie and Luka, is that combination beatable? Who has that? I watched the Celtics game 2 nights ago. I don't think anyone on the Pacers has it. I don't think anyone on the Celtics has it. I don't think anyone on the T-Wolves has it. I think the last remaining and best duo in the NBA right now, 4 teams left, has to be Luka and Kyrie. And it doesn't come easy to say this because things Kyrie does can make me insane, to say the least. But we're talking about on the court, on the court. David, just shut up and let him dribble. I am. They look sort of unbeatable. They've won 5 road games during the course of this playoffs. People are still giving you the narrative on the other shows this morning. Mavs steal one in Minnesota, as though Minnesota is the fait accompli to win the home games. The T-Wolves just stole one in Denver. Did you watch Game 7? Wasn't stolen. It was earned. The Mavericks didn't steal a game. The Mavericks won a game, which goes back to my home court advantage. It's no longer a big advantage. I mean, it's nice for the crowds to see a home team win. But these players, it's just different now. They're used to winning on the road. They're fine. They don't care about staying in a hotel bed versus their own bed. They don't care about different types of food. It just doesn't bother them anymore. The travel is so easy and nice. The travel doesn't bother them anymore. Believe me, once players and teams start flying charter, which they all do now, without making anyone feel badly, you never heard us complain about travel. Oh, we got back at 4 a.m. Wah. Meanwhile, we're on our own plane. We don't go through airports. We don't go through security, really. And when we're on the plane, it's configured in a way that we can play games, we can sleep, we can watch movies, we can eat amazing food. We land. We literally have a bus waiting for us when we get off the plane. Yes, we have to walk down 10 stairs. And then the bus goes right to a hotel where, wait a minute, there's our key waiting for us with an envelope with our number on it. And there's food waiting in the lobby and in our room. Other than that, it's super, super hard to be on the road. Very, very stressful. Oh, you have to fold your own clothes. Uh, oh, no, you don't actually. So I just feel like winning on the road has become a bit easier. In the 80s, I would bet you, A, everyone was flying commercially. B, roommates on the road, that was a thing. Oh, it's my best friend. Hey, could you use the public room in the lobby for crying out loud? Didn't you see the hanger on the door? Those are things that can cause stress. So I really don't view the Mavericks winning game one as meaning they're going to win the series, though they may clearly have the better team. I view things totally differently. The Rangers lose. Oh, by the way, the Panthers won on the road in game one of the Eastern Conference Finals in hockey as well. I just think we have to start looking at sports just a little differently than we have been. The NBA is in an interesting situation. Adam Silver, if you asked him, if you shot him with a needle of truth serum, he would say, I really want Minnesota out of the playoffs as quickly as possible. I'm sick and tired of their ownership situation and the ownership fight being a bigger story than the team on the court. Sick of A-Rod. No one cares about A-Rod. That's Adam talking and David talking. Shown all the time. I didn't see the game. Anyone who watched the game, was there a cutaway to A-Rod sitting courtside at any point during the game? Was there a cutaway to Glenn Taylor sitting right next to the bench courtside at any time during the game? I ask you. I don't know. I watch Knick games. Don't see a lot of cutaways to James Dolan. I see a lot of cutaways to Cuban. I see a lot of cutaways to A-Rod, Glenn Taylor. Who's the fourth team? Pacers. How many cutaways do you get to the Simon brothers? Tons? I'm going to go an over-under of 0.1 cutaways, and I'm going to take the undie. I like the Simon brothers. You know what? I don't even know if the Simon brothers still own the Pacers. That is me talking from 90s Pacers and Reggie Miller. It was a guy named Herb Simon and his brother. I want to say it was Mel, but then I'm thinking Mel Turpin. I think Herb and Mel Simon. That's my guess. I don't know if they still own the team. But anyway, no cutaways to Indiana Pacers owners. It is Herb and Mel. You wonder why I know certain things and can't pronounce Angelica? I wonder about that too. I wonder whether I learned everything I know in the 80s and 90s and then just stopped, and that my memory is like my taste in music. I don't know. What else happened of note? Can we talk about the Ranger game for one quick sec? I've been to Cardinals games. St. Louis Cardinals is what I was thinking about during the Ranger game. More people in St. Louis wear Cardinal red per cap, more than Fenway, more than Wrigley, more than Yankee Stadium. Everybody's wearing Cardinal stuff. Last night, I was paying attention. There were 18,006 people. It was a sellout at the Garden. Remember, the sell for the Knicks was 19,810. Jim would like to make the ice smaller so he can fit more courtside seats. Roughly 1,804 more seats would be amazing for him. Everybody's in Ranger stuff. And there were practically zero Panther fans. And how do I know? Because when the Panthers scored, which they did 3 times, but the first time they scored and 1 goal got disallowed, so they really scored 4 times, the puck found the camera in the back of the net. You look around quickly, and you see little pockets of Panther fans. 2 over there in section Gimmel, row 30. I see you. I appreciate you. Winning on the road is fun, isn't it? Do you know what I didn't see leaving the Garden? Anyone in a Panther jersey. I think everyone who wore a Panther jersey did what I did. If you win or lose, doesn't matter. Take off the darn jersey. Don't become a victim of people who are insane. And Ranger fans were despondent last night. They got beaten by a better team. 18,006 sellout. There were 17,980 Ranger fans. I wonder what it's going to be like in Sunrise, Florida. Incidentally, very close to where I lived. Incidentally, not very close to Marlins Park. Incidentally, very close to where a bunch of New Yorkers live. I am wondering greatly how many blue shirts will be in Sunrise for game 3, but the number of red shirts for game 1, de minimis. I don't think the series is over. I think it's in a Billy Crystal situation from Princess Bride. Another movie reference that Sarah will not understand. It's not over. It's mostly over. All right, we come back. We're going to review one of my all-time favorite movies, which should not surprise you because it is Thursday, and we review a movie from my top 100 every single Thursday. And then we're going to talk about the New York Yankees. I want to know from all Yankee fans out there and all Yankee haters out there, what do you think of Steinbrenner now? I'll explain when we return. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's a Thursday morning. Just another Thursday morning. I'm David Sampson. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing, downloading, all the things you do that make our numbers what our numbers are. Make sure you tell your friends, family, anyone who'd be interested about Nothing Personal, because we're here. When I do my top 100 list, I do it according to, it takes a very, very long time. And once a year when I update it, it also takes a long time. I don't really focus on where movies fit into the top 100. It's I put a movie in, and then the next movie. Do I like that better or worse? And then it goes above or below. That's pretty much how I do it. Somehow, I don't know how this works, Coca. Parenthood ended up as my number 69, which is the equivalent of it ending up as my number 1. I'd like to say I did it on purpose, but I didn't. Parenthood, Steve, imagine a movie with these people, for those of you who haven't seen it, which at last look would be about 62.8% of you. Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Keanu Reeves, Martha Plimpton, Diane Wiest, Jason Robards, Tom Hulse. Did I mention Joaquin Phoenix? It's a movie about Jason Robards as the father and how he deals with his adult children, how his adult children deal with their children, all the crazy things that happen when children want to have children, all of the crazy ways that families interact with each other, all of the crazy ways that kids are, and all of the issues that can come up. It's done with humor, Mary Steenburgen as well. It's done with humor. It's done with sadness. I've got a goodly number of quote tattoos. I do love tattoos, and I love putting quotes, different quotes on my bod. There's a quote from Parenthood that has not quite made it yet, but it has finished in the pole position several times. That's a call forward, Coca. There is a scene in Parenthood where the grandmother, because it's yet another generation, so there are grandmother, Robards, Martin, and then there, so it's 4 generations. She talks about the difference between a roller coaster and a merry-go-round, and how there's some people who like the merry-go-round. She finds it boring. It just goes around and around and around. Nothing really. But the roller coaster, you've got ups, you've got downs, you've got fear, you've got anxiety, you've got stomach aches, you've got the possibility of perishing. 2 types of people in this world: people who like roller coasters and people who don't. People who like merry-go-rounds and people who don't. It's sort of like people who like olives. 2 types of people. You either love them or you hate them. Very few people are neutral. Same way with roller coasters and merry-go-rounds. I'd like you to watch the movie if you don't mind. And I'd like you to trust me. It's old. Every part of it but one has aged perfectly, but I really would like you to see it. It's called Parenthood. All right, Coca. Put on that spreadsheet done by that fan of Nothing Personal. We get to pick a movie I get to watch again this week. It's part of my top 100 that I'll review next Thursday. Here it is. Here's the button. Press it. In the Name of the Father. Didn't I review that before? I must have reviewed it as a top 5 Daniel Day-Lewis movie. This is my number 27 movie, Daniel Day-Lewis. We will talk very much about it. It is a true story. It is one of his best performances, which is saying something given he's never had a bad one. Thank you for that. In the name of the Father. The perfect transition to In the Name of the Father is Hal Steinbrenner channeling George Steinbrenner and having George Steinbrenner say, in the name of me, your father, stop talking to the media and saying what you're saying. You're driving me crazy. Go have a fight with a player. Go pay somebody to dig up dirt on one of your other players. Go fire a manager. Do something, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. This mediocrity since 2009 is unacceptable. But Dad, look what I've done to the value of our family heirloom and the family jewel. Don't talk to me about family jewels, son. Fire the GM. But Dad, I have such continuity. It's great. Look at how successful we are. Successful? Mike Keister. Show me the rings you've won since 2009. I don't have any, Dad. Then you're a failure, son. Hal Steinbrenner then looks at his dad. He looks at Juan Soto. He looks at Aaron Judge. He looks at Giancarlo Stanton. He looks at Garrett Cole, and he says, Dad, in the name of my life and you as my father, we've got the best record in the American League. Son, I don't give a crap. I only care about rings. Hal Steinbrenner went to an owners meeting and decided, here's a good thing I'm going to do while we have the best record in the AL. Here's the thing we're going to do while our fans are super excited. They're a little nervous about Juan Soto, which makes me crazy. Enjoy what you have when you have it and stop begging to have it more than you have it. Whatever you have, you have. By the way, I'm talking about your life. Your life may have another day. It may have another week. It may have another year. It may have another decade. It may have another 10 decades. Do you know? Because I sure as heck fire don't know. Can't you just enjoy now? The Yankees with the top record in the top. That'll sound good in the edit. 2-8-69. The Yankees have the top record in the American League. 34-17. Garrett Cole hasn't pitched to a batter yet. Aaron Judge was cold as ice in April. You were trying to release Stanton in May. Now look at you. So Hal Steinbrenner says, I got an idea. I'm going to go to an owners meeting. And then here's a little nugget for you about owners meetings. As an owner or president, you do not have to speak to the media that's waiting for you. Every owners meeting I ever went to, there were always media in the lobby waiting to speak with any owner or president who would speak to them. If you want to get a message out, you do it in an owners meeting because they're right there. If you go back and look in time, I assume you can find it on the Google. I've never Googled it. I spoke after many owners meetings. Some of them off the record, many of them on the record, because I always had an agenda. If the Expos were going to be contracted, I needed to make everyone realize I'm fighting for the Expos not to be contracted because I don't want to be contracted. The Marlins need a new ballpark. I am after an owners meeting saying, hey, the owners are upset we don't have a new ballpark. If we're negotiating a new ballpark, hey, the owners are upset we're offering too much money into this partnership. Hey, if we know we have to shed salary, it's been a day. If we know we have to shed payroll after an owners meeting, hey, this is just not. We're losing money and we're not performing great. Or if we're performing great, hey, we are excited to hopefully have this team be appreciated with a concomitant increase in revenue. There are a million things you can say. The majority of teams just walk by the waiting pool of media. Hal Steinbrenner didn't. Hal Steinbrenner decided it was time for him to be honest. Thank the Lord. He said, I'm going to be honest. Payrolls at the levels we're at right now are simply not sustainable for us financially. Go Yankees. It wouldn't be sustainable for the vast majority of ownership groups. No shit, Sherlock, you're the Yankees. Given the luxury tax we have to pay, we know you don't like paying luxury tax, but thanks for mentioning it. We've got a considerable amount of money coming off next off season. We didn't have a considerable amount of money coming off last off season, which is why we're at where we're at. I've been a broken record. I don't believe I should have a $300 million payroll to win a championship. That's true, because if you had them and you haven't won a championship, you may want to try a $200 million payroll. You never know. He said, I believe I need a good mix of veterans who are going to make a lot more money, but also we've put a lot of money into our player development system in the last 5 to 10 years. And in my opinion, we have one of the better ones in baseball now. A couple things about that quote, Hal. Let's start with the easy one. Number one, no one cares what your opinion is of your farm system, because you and all the other 29 owners don't know squat about your farm system. It's not your job. That would be like asking Dave Winfield, when you're George Steinbrenner, hey, while I'm digging up the dirt on you, could you do me a favor? Give me some advice on the shipping business. Mark Walter, hey, I got a question, Shohei. You're so good at baseball. I'm wondering how our insurance fund is doing. Hey, Derek, you were an amazing shortstop. Tell me, how would I run a team? It's absurdity. That's like owners who say, oh, I'm telling you, we got to draft this guy or that guy. Ooh, he's got good stuff. What was Hal Steinbrenner doing, and why? Was he doing a David Zaslav? Was he trying to prepare you for the fact that Turner's not keeping the NBA? Was Hal trying to prepare you for the fact that he can't sign Soto? Did he say that he had a willingness to do a negotiation during the course of the season, and then not more than 2 weeks later say, and by the way, we can't keep up this kind of payroll? Now they do get a break starting in 2026 when Stanton gets $10 million cheaper, because the Marlins, bless their soul, will be paying $10 million to Stanton for 3 straight years, 26, 27, 28. So that means the Yankees are getting him for $10 million cheaper. So there's an extra 10 for you. Aaron Judge, is he still going to be, when's his contract over? I assume his contract must be up by 2052 or something. He signed that monster free agent deal. Garrett Cole, he's still getting paid. So what do you really think Hal was doing here? Telling you for sure that Gleyber Torres is gone. Telling you for sure that Alex Verdugo is a one and done. Telling you that keeping Soto is in no way a fait accompli, especially the way Boris is going to negotiate it, especially knowing don't get into a land war in Asia. That's a Princess Bride reference. Second one of the show. If you know, you know. If Steve Cohen wants Juan Soto, Steve Cohen's going to get Juan Soto. Scott Boras is going to call Steve Cohen and say, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You came in here trying to be the Yankees, and your team stinks. You're not the Yankees. You put Soto and Alonso in the middle of that lineup for only $80 million per year for those two. And I'm telling you, you got yourself a middle of the lineup that will make other teams get on their knees. But Scott, what about the Phillies? They're pretty good, aren't they? Hey, by the way, Scott, have you noticed how the Orioles are so good with all those young players? Don't be ridiculous. Don't follow what the Orioles did. They don't know anything. These are the conversations that really happen between Boris and the teams and owners when free agents are happening. I promise you. It's going to be funny watching. The good news is that Hal Steinbrenner said he's going to be honest with us. I love starting interviews like that. I'm going to be honest right now, because every other time I've spoken to you, I've lied. Completely lied. But this time I'm going to be honest, so you better listen. Our payroll has to go down. Folks, I must tell you, I think it's going down because he was honest with you. Nothing personal pick of the day. Presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code SAMSON. That's SAMSON. Because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We're looking at basketball and baseball for today's pick of the day. We're starting with game 2 of the Pacers-Celtics. Something's happened in game 2 to the Celtics, each of the previous 2 series they played in the NBA playoffs. They lost to the Heat in game 2, and Miami and Le Batard said, "Look at us go. Heat in 5." Oh, we meant Celtics in 5. Then they went on to play the Cavaliers. Cavaliers win game 2, steal game 2. They deserved it. Cavaliers going to make a series of this. Donovan Mitchell is going to have to decide if he's happy because they're going to make a long series in Boston. That was it for the Cavs. They just have a hard time winning game 2s. Maybe they can't stand prosperity. That's why we're taking the Pacers +9. Rick Carlisle's not going to make the same mistake again at the end of the game. I don't think Halliburton's going to dribble the ball off his knee again at the end of the game. And I think that the Pacers are on a bender of shooting high field goal percentage, still not 67, but above 50. And I look at the Celtics as totally beatable. Pacers +9 over the Celtics. In baseball on Thursday, for a pick that is presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports, we are looking at the Blue Jays and Kevin Gausman against Jack Flaherty and the Tigers. The Blue Jays are -110. And you may be saying to yourself, how can David be on the Blue Jays money line when the Blue Jays stink? When the Blue Jays may be selling Mortimer, getting rid of Vladdy, getting rid of Bo, Craig, Larry, and Curly. My pick to win the AL East is running out of time. They are out of time, Daryl Hall. But Kevin Gausman is on the case. He said the reality is if we don't play well, this team will not be together for much longer. Well, the ball's in your hands, and you are our pick of the day, presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. So win the damn game. Blue Jays -110 over the Tigers. Those are the nothing personal picks of the day. How did we do yesterday? Giants over the Pirates. Can we spend just 2 minutes talking about that, Coco? Blake Snell stinks. David, you didn't watch the game. Yeah, you're right. He didn't give up the grand slam. But yeah, he gave up the runners who were on base, and the reliever had to come in because you stink. Hitting people, walking people. You know what I didn't love? Didn't love it. Never loved it. When a pitcher would come up to me after a game and be pissed off about inherited runners, and I would say, "Excuse me, I'm going to give you a sheet now. Hey, Mr. Analytics guy, come into my office if you don't mind. Hi, can you just give me a quick number of runs that haven't scored when this guy's left them on base and we take them out of the game, and therefore you get no earned runs? Can I just get a couple of those if you don't mind?" Then they bitch and moan, "Hey, we gave up a grand slam. That's 3 runs on my stat sheet." Hey, dude, you're overpaid. But we had the Giants over the Pirates, and somehow the Giants scored 4 in the 10th and beat the Pirates. Hallelujah. That's a nothing personal pick. Winner. I went to the Rangers game last night and had the Rangers over the Panthers. I had a bad feeling right after the anthem about that pick. I can't explain why. It just seemed, something seemed off, and it was. And I couldn't hedge because I wasn't on the air. So we had the Rangers over the Panthers. Lost it. We are now 69 wins. God, I hope I don't have a losing streak right now. We are 69-79. What do you do when you need money? Let's go through, if you don't mind, your choices of when you need money. Let me see if I can come up with them. In no particular order. You can go through your parents' stuff and see if they keep cash around. Go through your significant other's stuff. Take money out of their wallet. You can go to the bank and take money out of your account. You can commit various number of crimes to get money, cash or other such instruments. You can take on an extra shift. You can work a little harder, sell an extra unit. There's all sorts of things you can do to get more money. You can ask people, "Hey, could you give me money?" Universities around this country need more money right now. But David, The endowments at Harvard are $50 billion. Can't believe they need more money. Well, that's just because you don't know what an endowment is, and I'm happy to go through it, but not today. What I will go through is the fact that many college athletic departments are losing money operationally. And they're losing money operationally because they're spending money on football and on facilities and on coaches. And then the football is making money because of the TV deals and the revenue, gate revenue, et cetera, that they get. And then they take that profit and they give it over to other quote unquote non-football sports, what I like to call Olympic sports, where they can't give the tickets away. Hey, you don't want to come to the diving competition? I love watching diving. I've got a very close friend who has a son who dives. It's damn cool. But believe me, they're not raking in the bucks for their college. So these colleges have P&Ls, just like you do in your house and you do in your company. And these college athletic departments lose money. So what do? You got to get money. Go to a donor. Go find a criminal in Miami and say, give me money. You could do that. You could go find actual donors and boosters and say, would you mind? Or you could go to a bank and borrow. That's what you do when you want to buy a house. That's what you do when you want to start a company. You go to the bank and you borrow money and you give them your business plan. And then the business plan is evaluated. And you say, you're going to build a business that works. You're going to buy a house and you have a job that can support the payments that are required. The value of your house is going to go up. And I have a secure job. This is not like The Big Short. Don't worry, Adam. I've got you covered, McKay. Everything's fine. We're worthy of this mortgage. You could do that. Or you can go to alternate ways of getting money. The alternate ways of getting money often cost you more in interest. You could take money off your credit card, but borrow from a bank, you pay 6%. Borrow from your credit card, you pay 26%. You've heard of loan sharks? Private equity firms were invented by people who they took money they had and they invest it in companies that need money. They tell the companies how to better run themselves. Then they make those companies profitable and they take their money out or sell the company, break up the company, and then take their money, buy some other assets, and then move on and buy other companies. Private equity is a very, very complicated system. But to put it right down to brass tacks, private equity firms take an allocation of money. They go to a university, let's say, and they say, we'd like to give you $100 million. In return, we would like to take 10% of your athletic department P&L. We're not going to own your athletic department, so it's not exactly like we're investing in a company, but this is a little different. But take the money, pay your NILs, get good players, then you are going to have a more profitable athletic department, and we're going to take a cut of the profits if you don't mind. No profits, no problem. We won't take our money back. But believe me, you're going to have profits. We're not going to get involved. Oh, but we are. You better watch out for this, folks, because private equity is coming to college. It's coming to a college near you. And the result is going to be a complete change in how colleges are run, in how departments are run. You're going to read that these great companies, Redbird Capital, Weatherford Capital, you may read that they're just so gracious. They're going to give money to universities and then step out of the way. Horse hockey doesn't work that way. They will give money and then they will be involved because they need to make a return on the money they give. That's how they get other people to give them money in the first place. It's how they get to live their lifestyle in the second place. They're not a charity. These universities are not charities. These are not boosters. When you see that private equity is getting involved in college athletics, that should be yet another indication of what I said yesterday. We need unions, free agency, employment status. These guys are doing business with colleges because it's just business. I'm sorry to everyone on the water polo team. It's nothing personal.